Welcome back to Mitchell, Ontario, and it is time for the championship final of this high-level 6-team division, and you don't have to reach too far to find Bear Creek. It's the Bear Creek Gremlins, formerly the New York Gremlins, against the Bear Creek Express in the title game. A couple of close semi-final affairs for both groups, as the Gremlins, who will be the home team in this game, jumped out to a 4-1 lead and hung on to beat JDT First Energy 4-3. Even more difficult for the Bear Creek Express, who won their group with a record of 2-1. They trailed the Toronto Batmen for the majority of that game, but rallied to come back and win it by a count of 6-5. As we will set the batting lineup for the Bear Creek Express. And if only I could see the monitor. Not a chance. But it looks very similar to a lot of games that have been played this weekend. Callum Bichel to lead things off. He had a great semifinal. Yusuke Morita, Sebastian Galino, Salgado Pinto, Cody Panabecker at second again, Tyrone Barterillo, the 40-year-old first baseman, and Yusuf Davis. And as far as the defense is concerned, that doesn't change a lot either. Matthew Waugh, Ben Anoka, Abiardo Penoilis. In the outfield, it is Jerome Remeke, Cole Evans, who's had a marvelous weekend, Ladislau Malarzuk, Eric Ochoa, and the veteran catcher Nick Mullins. The starter from Argentina is Pablo Migliavaca. He came on late in the semifinal triumph over JDT First Energy to close it out with an inning of relief. His last main outing was a 4-inning performance in the final game of the round robin last night in a 3-1 triumph over the Hill United Chiefs. And we are about set to begin as 28-year-old Australian national team member Callum Bichel will lead things off. Bichel had 2 hits, drove in a couple of runs with a triple in the semifinal game, and he takes a look at strike number 1 behind home plate. Trevor Topping, a 3-man crew for this championship final. Ed Otterman at first. Dave Harrington will man the work over at third. The sweeping change as we welcome in tournament organizer and this weekend a part-time broadcaster, Blair Setford, into the mix until he has to run and do something else.
Hopefully we can get most of a game in.
Evans diving. Sensational play by the 26-year-old shortstop, New Zealand national teamer Cole Evans. As good as it gets over there in the sport, Blair.
You look at the extension that he gets on the dive, every bit of that 6'2", 6'3" frame from Cole Evans, and then the presence of mind to get up to his feet and make a strong throw. A lot of guys will rush that throw and bounce it, not Cole Evans.
Superb defensive play to open this title game. And the batter in his first year with the Bear Creek Express of the Japanese national team, Yusuke Morita. He's 36 years of age. And he was 1 for 3 in the semifinal victory by a count of 6-5 for the Express, as the Toronto Batmen upset Hill United in a quarterfinal 8-7, and they almost, Blair, did it again.
Final out of the game, I watched it, Peter, from the sidelines. They were about 2 feet away from a walk-off home run, or at least the top of the 7th home run, to take the lead.
Just missed one. Migliavaca grounded back, foul to home plate. Morita on the weekend is now 3 for 9. He has doubled and driven in a couple of runs. Played last year in the ISC with a San Antonio Glowworm. So a superb play by Evans defensively to begin. And a strikeout for Migliavaca, his first of this championship affair.
Great pitch and great selection there from Nick Mullins. Pablo Migliavacchi came right inside in the hands and tied up Yusuke Morita right under the hands.
Migliavacchi has a somewhat unique pitching delivery. A lot of pitches, not all of them, Blair,
no, he's
with
not
that
gonna,
sweeping type motion.
Yeah, that's a pitch that a lot of the Argentine pitchers emulated Juan Podolicio, who used to throw that big sweeping hook.
Is the designated player in this game is Ty Sebastian. What a beginning to the tournament for him. On Friday, he had a pair of 2-run home runs in their 4-1 triumph. By the way, this is the second meeting of these two teams. They faced off yesterday, and the Gremlins blew it open late to beat the Express by a count of 9-3. And Migliavacchi, and it's not the first time today, Blair, that we have seen someone hurt trying to plant their feet on the way towards home plate as a pitcher.
Well, you know what? Not everybody has the exact same pitching motion, so there's a whole bunch of holes that get developed over the course of a tournament, and it's a little precarious out there by the end of the weekend.
A strike to Sebastian, who will represent his country at the upcoming World Cup in July in Prince Albert. The 29-year-old, I like to call him the Brussels Bulldog, because that's how he plays. The 29-year-old. He was 0 for 3 in the semifinal versus the Batman. 4 out of 9 for the weekend with a couple of home runs and 5 runs batted in.
Yeah, he's been a mainstay here in the middle of the lineup, pitching for the Express. And this was a big acquisition for them. As you talked about, Peter, they've completely rebuilt this team, but Ty's right at the center of that.
Well, it had to be a lot of interesting emotion for him in that semifinal because he was the star of the Toronto Batman for years, Blair, as you know better than anybody. He goes down on a Migliavacchi drop ball. A 1-2-3 start to the top of the first will set the Gremlins offensively and the Express defensively shortly from Mitchell.
This business was opened in 1965 by my father, Ned Matiosi. Could have walked in here 25, 30 years ago and seen just about the same thing. The process of making a suit takes about 6 weeks. It goes through about 12 or 13 hands as it's moved along the line. It's an old-time place. Making stuff from scratch here in the city at a reasonable cost. It's a very personal type of business.
Half inning in the books, a 1-2-3 defensive inning for the Gremlins. And there is their vaunted hitting lineup. They are a perfect 4-0 here this weekend in Mitchell, last year's finalists at the ISC World Tournament in Surrey. They were the 23 champions. A lot of familiar names, and the order doesn't change a whole lot in big games, Blair.
Well, they've added a couple of guys, and I don't mean to contradict you because they've had guys coming in and out.
They have this weekend. They have, absolutely.
Yeah.
Been a couple of guys in, even in the last lineup. No Mallerzuk. Mullins was not a regular member of that lineup, so.
But what I've liked about the Gremlins here is they've started to bring in some younger guys. Lucio Retamar didn't play a lot last year, playing much more this year. Abiardo Penuelas, we saw what a great world tournament he had, what a great addition he was to that lineup, and it's good to see that he's getting regular playing time as well. It's tough when you're juggling 12, 13, 14 guys, all of whom can and should be starters.
And would be on so many other teams with some of the number one ranked groups, and you've seen a lot of them here this weekend. As you just had a peek at the defense behind 40-year-old Sean Cleary, who gets the ball. He's pitched 7 1/3 innings this weekend. longtime Canadian national team member and will be again at the upcoming World Cup. 5 runs, he's given up 6 hits, struck out 11, and walked 3, and set to face a longtime teammate with his country in Matthew Waugh. Waugh 0 for 3 in the semifinal win over JDT First Energy. Now 2 for 6 with a couple of runs batted in here this weekend in Mitchell. The pride of Saint-Gervais, Quebec. Had a nice little visit with them in between games. Always great to catch up with Matthew Waugh, who was pretty good in his own right at last year's ISC World Tournament.
Yeah, had himself a whale of a tournament, another all-tournament team, all-world nomination for Matthew. And he announced that this was going to be his last tour of duty with the national team. And there will be a lot of turnover on Canada after this World Cup.
Yeah, in many ways, Blair, and, you know, we spent a lot of time with Mike Brancho, head of Softball Canada in that department. This is kind of the end of the cycle.
Yeah, it really is.
But the good news is there is some players, and many of them have been involved in this event, maybe not quite ready to take the torch to the same level. But when the next Men's World Cup is held in a few years, they'll probably be more ready to be in those positions when you think about the Mitch McKays and the Nick Whites and, you know, go on down the line. As Waugh tries to lay down a bunt.
And that was a good idea by Matthew, both Alan Salgado at third as well as Bartarillo over at first. They were well back.
There would be some who might suggest, and this guy has power, can still run, fields well, hit .529, by the way, on the way to another all-world selection, which has happened for him 7 times in his career. Was 9 for 17 in Surrey with a double, a triple, and 5 runs batted in. There's also a first-team All-Star at the ASAs last season. This year, those will be staged in the middle of July, just prior to the ISC World Tournament in Oklahoma City. I think those begin July 17th, if memory serves me correctly. So Sean Cleary working against someone that he's pitched to on both sides of the ledger.
Both sides of the ledger, and I would say success for both of them is mixed.
Took something off, popped high in the air. Pannebecker with the glasses on. And there's one away in the bottom of the first. Cody Pannebecker, another big addition to this Bear Creek Express lineup. Jerome Remicke, 2 for 4 with a run batted in the semifinal versus JDT First Energy. On the weekend, he is now 3 for 11 with 3 runs batted in. The 30-year-old from Wellington, New Zealand. Last year was a tough year, broke his forearm, was hit by a Marco Diaz pitch, prevented him from participating in both a World Cup qualifying event for his home country in Prince Albert, and also was unavailable at the ISC World Tournament. As Cleary works in, much to his chagrin, it is called a ball.
Jerome made a surprise guest appearance with the Bar of Appleton last week.
He
at
did.
The Jack Raffmeyer tournament down in Kimberly, Wisconsin.
Yes, a member of the Bar Buzz last weekend. One of the toughest outs in the sport. And there's a lot of them in this game. And here this weekend. Excellent drop ball from Sean Cleary, who from every account and the people that I have talked to in the know Sean really on a mission this year in many ways. And he's going to play for Canada not only at the World Cup, he's going to the World Games in China too.
He is going to both of those big events. And is that the swan song for Sean Cleary? Certainly on the national stage, I would think.
Remeke, high, not as deep as he would have liked. And remember, this is a large ballpark. There's not a lot of parks, I don't think, Blair, except here in Mitchell, where I believe one is 290 or 295. Another here amongst the Four Diamonds is 315. This one, 270. I would suggest in many cases, and maybe it's not always the case, but I always think about 250 as being, a bit of a standard type distance.
Yeah, 250 is the regulation that we use at the ISC World Tournament. This one's 245 down the lines, 270 to straightaway center field. So it bulges out a little bit in center. And you hit one out to center here. It's a poke. You've earned it.
You have earned it in a big way. And we've seen several and that have cleared that center field fence with plenty of room to spare. Here's Ben Anoka, another New Zealand national team member, longtime Gremlin. Ben was 0 for 2 in the semifinal earlier today, won by the Gremlins over JDT First Energy by a count of 4-3. And he had himself a wonderful ISC World Tournament in Surrey, batted .444. Was 8 for 18 with a double, 2 home runs, and 8 runs batted in. He was amongst the leader in that category as well. Cleary dealing with Anoka, who has the first base hit of this championship final here in Mitchell as he takes that pitch and drives it right up the middle.
This is a guy that Sean, and when I talk with Ryan Boland, it's a guy that they've always struggled with over the years is Benny Anoka. How do you get him out? Because Benny lets the ball travel into the strike zone. His power is actually right center, but he can go up the middle. He can pull it out to left. Where do you go with a guy like that?
Where do you go with a guy like this? Eric Ochoa, he led everybody in runs batted in Surrey, British Columbia. He had 10 of them. Eric's 3 for 8 with a home run and 3 runs batted in this weekend. Hit .350 with those 10 runs batted in, which included 3 home runs. As the Gremlins went through that event unbeaten until they ran into the Hill United Chiefs and fell 7-1 on Championship Saturday as part of the hitting equipment for Eric Ochoa, who will represent his home country, the United States, at the upcoming World Cup. And Blair, I'm not sure the United States has had a better opportunity to win that title than they have this year for a long time.
They've got pitching depth that they haven't had in ages, and they hit and field as well as anybody in the game.
Hard to argue. Ochoa will be a big part. He helped them qualify for that event. I've seen 2 hometowns for Eric, one Imperial, California, the other Yuma, Arizona. We'll have to get some clarification as to which it is. It might be somewhere different now, too. There's Sean Cleary, retired the first 2 batters he faced, and then Anoka with the single.
Getting out of the first inning has always been key for Sean. The word around the game over the years, if you're going to get to Sean, you want to get to him early.
In this sport, I wouldn't say that's the case with everyone, but it feels like there is some similarity to that. A little grimace from Ochoa as he takes that Cleary offering for a strike. Sean, a 9-time All-World member over his Hall of Fame career. I think that's pretty fair to say that he's headed there when it's all said and done.
There will be some reservations for a number of fellas in this game in the coming years.
You're right. There sure will be. There's going to be some great classes. This is well struck, but foul down the left field line. Eric Ochoa, like many, not shy on power.
Not in the least. I have watched Eric Ochoa hit home runs, moonshots to straightaway left field, line drive shots to straightaway right, and just huge power bombs to center. Power to all fields.
Thank you, Peter, for the understatement of the day. I'm good at them. But he does have a lot of power. And Cleary has a lot of finesse. And showed it.
A low rise to the outside corner. Not what Eric Ochoa was expecting. Some great pitch selection there from Sean Cleary. You see it here. Right to the mitt on the outside corner.
His first strikeout. One hit, no runs through one. The Express and the Gremlins for the title of the Canada ISC East qualifying tournament.
Let's talk about a local one-stop shop. Live Well for Life is just that, a fitness, nutrition, and therapy facility all under one roof. Located at 3878 Wellington Street in Mitchell, Ontario, you can get so much done in just one visit. A full complement of staff on hand include chiropractic, massage, and personal training to get you back to your healthy self. Find them on the web at livewellforlifeinc.com or give
Live Well for Life, a proud sponsor of the broadcast program.
Express back to deal with pitcher Pablo Migliavaca and the rest of the unbeaten here in Mitchell. Bear Creek Gremlins. Just want to use Gremlins and Express. It's just simple. And there's base hit number one of the game, and it's the gentleman who, in many ways, was the hero of the semifinal, David Galino, whose two-run shot late paved the way to the 6-5 win over the Batman, has the first hit for the Express.
David Galino has grown so much in the game in the last 2.5 seasons now. I remember his first year with Bear Creek, 2023, at Circle Tap. They had him hitting in the 9 spot. Always a tremendous glove. Little tentative at the at-bat. By the middle of last year, he was hitting in the cleanup spot, and I think he's going to be there all there this year, too. Lots of pop.
Started a little slow here in Mitchell, but he's up to 5 hits now. Was 2 for 3 with that 2-run homer in the semifinal game. So by my math now, 5 out of 14. And this is another player from the country of Venezuela, Alan Salgado. And he's another newcomer, Blair, to this Express team.
Yeah, Alan last year with the Glowworm.
Hit 385 at the ISC on one hop to Mallerzuk, who will take the lead runner, and Evans almost turning 2. What a play he made in the first inning to rob Callum Bichel of a hit. So the force out.
This is a tremendous play by Ladislav Mallerzuk. Watch where his momentum is, and he has to spin and make that accurate throw, which isn't always the case, to second base on that play. A lot of times that ball will end up in left field.
And the other thing about it is on the spin, as you know, Blair, you want to be able to show the person you're throwing to a good line of sight.
Where it's coming from.
And
exactly.
He did a really good job and threw to the part of the bag where you would want someone to go, too. rather than trying to throw it through the runner, which gets you in a lot of trouble. I think I mentioned Salgado. He's from Mexico. This gentleman's from Venezuela, Luigi Pinto. According to my notes, he's from Valencia, Valenzuela, which is obviously Venezuela. It's pretty good. I have to use it again because when it's quite funny, why not make fun of yourself? Don't make fun of that. As he launches it into left center, and a couple of hits for the Express to start the second.
Yeah, Luigi Pinto has been a good player at the top level for a really long time. I can remember him playing corner infield and designated player with the Venezuela team all the way back in 2015 at the Saskatoon World Cup that year. So he's been at the top level for a decade.
Yeah, he's 38 years of age. He'll turn 39 on the 13th of October. And this is Cody Pannebecker. Drops down a bunt, just foul, and at 39 years of age, Nick Mullins still gets out of the catcher's box in a hurry.
He is a cat. You cannot underestimate what Nick Mullins brings to this team. The veteran leadership from behind the plate, in the dugout, off the field, on the field. This is a professional.
So 2 strikes, as Pannebecker thought that the rise might have been a little up. Cody had a hit, a double, and a run batted in the semifinal triumph. It was his first hit of the weekend. He was 0 for 2 in the 9-3 setback at the hands of the Gremlins yesterday. Change up, the sweeping change, as I like to refer to it, because that's exactly what it looks like. And very effective. His third strikeout of this final game for Migliavaca. Who will now, as in Pannebecker, stay in the game to run for the catcher, the courtesy runner with 2 out. And here's 40-year-old Tyrone Bartarillo. And the drop ball is down and out of the zone. He's from Christchurch, New Zealand. He'll celebrate a birthday later this month on June 28th.
I talked to Ty the other night when got into town, and he's talked about, another year here in North America. He still has fun, still enjoys coming over to play, and he said, I'm going to keep doing it until they don't want me to come anymore. And why wouldn't you? He is one of the best consummate hitters in the game.
Up the middle. Salgado will score easily in the Express. Strike first on the base hit, and another run batted in for Tyrone Bartarillo. Why would you leave?
Well, you can hit the ball like that. You don't have to hit it out of the park. I know chicks dig the long ball, but you can get consistency.
That's my problem.
You can get consistency from a guy like Tyrone Bartarillo and score a lot of runs.
Well, he has another run batted in here. Also drove in a run in the semifinal game. And U.S. national team member, left fielder Yusuf Davis steps in. No activity yet for the Gremlins. Dave Harrington says yes, he did, down at third.
Yeah, it looked like he took the bat through the zone from my vantage point back here.
Yusuf Davis, 30 years old, calls Las Vegas home. Don't see a lot of that sweeping type change to left-handed batters. I find I see it more to the, of course, sweeping across to a righty.
Yeah, you're bringing it into their power zone.
except in the previous pitch where he just missed, the location was good because he still kept it outside, even to the left-handed hitter.
Yeah, if you can bite the backside of the plate with that curveball, that's what you're aiming for. That's a fine line to walk, because if you miss, you're probably going to miss inside.
That looked like the same type of pitch right there again in the sequence. And Davis able to fight it off. Runs exceptionally well, does Yusuf. He was a San Antonio glowworm 1 season ago, hit .333 at the ISC World Tournament. He had 7 hits in the 2018 event with then the JBB Bombers. And there's a quality drop ball and a swing and a miss, but Migliavaca didn't like the inning. He gave up 3 hits, and the game's first run is the Express strike first.
Let's talk about a local one-stop shop. Live Well for Life is just that, a fitness, nutrition, and therapy facility all under one roof. Located at 3878 Wellington Street in Mitchell, Ontario, you can get so much done in just one visit. A full complement of staff on hand include chiropractic, massage, and personal training to get you back to your healthy self. Find them on the web at livewellforlifeinc.com or give
Live Well for Life, a proud sponsor.
Sean Cleary back to work. He gave up 1 hit in the bottom of the first, and now he takes the circle with the lead. His team provided that with 3 hits off the opposing pitcher, Pablo Migliavaca. And he'll have to deal with red-hot Cole Evans. Evans here in Mitchell, 5 for 11. He has homered and driven in a couple of runs, had a big 2-run home run. Actually has 2 homers in the tournament. The one in the 4th inning that paved the way to their 3-1 triumph last night in their final round robin game. And what I would suggest might have been the game of the weekend in many ways.
Well, it was right up there in terms of drama. A couple of others that the Chiefs were involved in too. The one this morning with Toronto, a seesaw affair, back and forth, I think certainly would qualify from the dramatic perspective.
Well, there's been a lot of those in the semifinal. Was very dramatic between the Batmen, who had a big lead into the later stages before the Express battled back to win 6-5. I think for me, Blair, and this is just a personal thing, I'm not a huge fan of the 8-7s and the 9-8s, and that's honestly, that is just not for me my cup of tea.
No,
I'm more old school
yeah,
in that
3-1
regard.
Game was a much more old school fastball, fast pitch softball
yes
matchup.
And I thought it was played played very well too.
Absolutely.
As Evans looks at a ball. Can only imagine how many confrontations these two guys have had. Amazing to think that Cole Evans was 16 years of age when he played in his first World Cup for New Zealand in Saskatoon in 2015. He's only 26.
Yeah, no, I vividly remember calling a number of games that Cole played that year as the 16-year-old. And he's always had the presence of mind. The play that always stuck out for me, there was a line shot, I think it was against Canada, but it was a line shot. It went off the glove of the third baseman, and Cole had the presence of mind to turn and pivot and intercept it and it was literally a 5-6 line drive out. As a 16-year-old, to have the presence of mind to make a play like that was astounding.
Well, he made a pretty wonderful play to begin this game, diving into the hole towards third, got up and threw a strike. And even in between games, who's the first guy out there taking extra ground balls? You don't get there for no reason, even though he'd be one of a few players that when I watch him, you look at the build, how gifted he is in so many ways. It's like the guy was born to play this sport.
He certainly has all kinds of raw athletic talent, but he has worked at it. I've talked with Cole. He's very process-driven, and he has perfected his craft because he's worked at it. The old 100 hours rule, I'm sure it's 1,000 hours for Cole.
And Sean Cleary wins this confrontation with an excellent pitch on the outside portion of the plate as he has back-to-back strikeouts. Delivered well. Lucio Retamar, the youngster from Argentina. Not sure if 25 is in the youngster category, but relatively speaking in this sport.
Well, he was up here a couple of years back with JB, moved over to the Gremlins last year. Like we said earlier, didn't get a lot of playing time, but has emerged into that mostly regular category here this year. And credit to him because he's earned that spot when he gets the opportunity.
An all-world player in Surrey. Went 6 for 15 there. Change up, one of a couple for Cleary, is up and out of the zone. Retamar with another hit and 2 runs batted in their semifinal triumph over JDT First Energy. In a game the Gremlins won, held on to win 4-3.
Sean's working a lot of off-speed pitches right now. He's doing a good job of keeping them down in the zone. And Peter, we've been praising the amount of time that hitters put into practice and everything. The two guys that work very hard are both Sean Cleary and Justin Schofield in the offseason. These guys are pitching every night indoors somewhere.
Well, I used one adjective, and there would be a few to describe Sean Cleary and his outstanding work ethic. Meticulous comes to mind.
Deliberate, cerebral.
Does meticulous fit?
I think it might,
Okay.
he said with a smile.
A big grin, I might add. Yes, they all fit.
That was one of the Gremlins vans that just took one in the windshield, was it? Well, Lucio might get the bill for that.
Probably not. Still hard to look at this team and not think about New York. But now, under the ownership of Scott Cornelius, and Cleary is off to a nice beginning. There's that drop ball located well, looked to be out of the zone, but you get those when you're around the zone in good areas, don't you?
Well, sometimes if you don't have the patience to sit and wait for your pitch, and Sean's not going to bring anything middle unless it's a mistake. So sometimes you chase, and that's what makes guys like Sean great. He gets you to chase.
And when you're nibbling and you're doing it very, very well, you usually get a little extra even maybe behind home plate, but you certainly do, I think, Blair, in the mind of a hitter. And he's working in the same spot to Abelardo Penuelas.
Yeah, just tried to expand the zone there a little bit, but that was really over the chalk line.
And Blair mentioned, and so accurately, that this guy really, in many ways, maybe a coming out party for him last year in Surrey. As Cleary staying away from the pride of Mexicali, Mexico. Was an Oma Tigre in 2023. Was 3 for 14 last March in an attempt to help his home country qualify for the World Cup. But of the 3 groups of 6 teams, I'd say, Blair, looking back, that was probably the most difficult. Panuelos, this'll test Yusuf Davis, and not even he can get to it.
Yeah, Peter, you're right. I remember the conversations we were all having offline in our chat groups about those groups, and Mexico was definitely the pool of death, as they like to call it in soccer, and it was always going to be difficult to come out of that one.
Now, the group in Prince Albert might have had a different twist with Argentina, New Zealand, and Canada, with the exception that Canada, even though they approached it kind of what I would call half and half. I mean, John Stewart and Jeff Ellsworth will tell you, like, very quickly, they did not go there to do anything but try to finish first. But they also did not take the type of team that you're about to see when the World Cup is played for real. So it was not a tryout, but in a sense, it was a great evaluating tool for Canada, knowing they were in as the host group.
Yeah, they did not have to win that tournament. New Zealand, on the other hand, absolutely had to qualify because the ranking, should you not get in for the wild card, was by the rankings. And New Zealand, by dint of finishing out of the playoff round on home turf back in 2022, they needed to qualify.
They did.
Yeah, they needed where they finished. Argentina just showed their form there. They were well ahead up the track of anybody else.
And this guy will play for Argentina once again. He's done it a lot since 2015. Ladislau Malerzuk. He was a youngster then. 30 years old all of a sudden, which reminds me again how quickly time can go by.
Well, I was saying the other night, my first viewing of Ladislau was back in 2012 in Midland when he was on what was then a U19 Argentina team that came up and set the foundation really with that team for their later success, both at the junior men's and ultimately winning in 2019.
Well, really, in so many ways, and we talked about it a lot last year in the games that we broadcast together. 2012 and 2014, those 2 Argentina World Junior teams, both highly successful, I might add. That's paved the way for this terrific generation of talent. Malerzuk being a part of it. The Express on a Tyrone Bartarillo base hit have jumped into an early 1-0 lead in this championship final. Location, location, location. And so far through 2 innings, Sean Cleary's got the right postal code in Mitchell.
Welcome to Mont Hill Golf and Country Club. With our beautiful 27-hole golf course open to the public, we work tirelessly to ensure your time with us is second to none. Well, here you'll be able to enjoy an incredible dining experience at our very own Big Pete's Steakhouse. Play some of the best courses in the world with our state-of-the-art golf simulators. Upgrade your gear with the top brands at our pro shop, or host a stunning wedding, event, or conference inside one of our beautiful ballrooms. Learn all this and more at monthill.ca. We can't wait to see you soon.
Blair, a broadcasting first for me. In between innings, somebody suggested I may have been louder on the microphone than my partner. There's a first.
Thanks for the notes, Randy and Bill. We'll try and we'll ask you now if the volume's a little bit more on the equal side.
How about
Peter,
I stay
meaning
in
both
here?
of us will be loud.
Here's Callum Bichel, who's having a fine weekend. He'll try and help Australia defend their world title. And on the topic of pretty good additions to this lineup, too, I might add. And I apologize. It's hard for me in many ways not to think about that event. And, Blair, we've watched so many players this weekend who will make up those teams. So it's hard not to go there.
Well, and listen, as the co-organizer of this event with my partners Joe Todd, Scott Perry, AJ Moses, this is such a great tournament here this weekend on the club side. But you're absolutely right. Everybody is building towards 3 big events at the end of this softball season. One of them is the WBC World Cup in Prince Albert. One of them is the ISC World Tournament in Mankato at the last week of July. And then the last one is going to be the new World Game, well, not new, but men's fast pitch being in the event is new, the World Games in Chengdu, China. And there are a lot of people excited about the latter in particular, just because it's a multi-sport event.
Yes.
And those seem to get the players really excited. You talk about what...
Ooh, sorry to interrupt.
No.
How about that catch? A screamer, and it was tailing off the bat of Callum Bichel. And Eric Ochoa's reflexes tested, and he answered the test with a A+. Line out to 3 in your scorecard, but doesn't really do that play justice.
Well, the defense is such an underrated part of the game. You saw the play that Cole Evans made earlier. That is different type of play, but on the same par. And the Gremlins, the Chiefs, the Express, the Batmen, the top teams here in this tournament all really play good defense.
I think it's the great separator. And frankly, at times, just because of schedule and lack of practice time, maybe even more of a separator at this level, because you don't have a lot of time to work on it, Blair, as you know. This is the ISC club ball is now more than ever, it's a weekend by weekend event. And you're playing far more. Now, you still, lots of players great at their craft, and they're here because of the work that they do outside of the weekend. But you know what I'm saying. There's not necessarily a lot of situational defense, those type of practices.
No, you're right. You're not having a lot of team practices. Everybody is working out on their own, going to do batting practice on their own or small groups. The days of team practices typically end around U16.
It's crazy. See, I am old school.
Well, and that's a function of the fact.
But that's just the way it is.
Yeah, your team, as you just said, most teams now are tournament teams.
They are.
And they get together on weekends, and that's it.
The sweeping change that Ty Sebastian well ahead of. Yusuke Morita, strikeout victim number 5 for Migliavaca.
Every other pitch is a change of speed right now. And then the drop ball really down on the dirt low. I mean, Pablo has always had the great change, and he's got a really good drop where he runs into trouble when he gets the ball thigh high and up, and that's not where he wants to be.
Ty Sebastian struck out in his first at-bat. The Express in front by a run, and the drop ball that Blair referred to, this one, down and in.
Peter, just to catch up on a couple of scores, the Red Division semifinals, Toronto Batman U23 team will be in the final. They take out the Kingston Axemen 8-1. And the Ontario U20 team leading the Georgian Bay Giants 2-1. That's in the top of the fourth. We could have a battle of the youth teams in the championship game. And I was saying to Mike Skelton earlier, and just let me finish this thought.
Yes, of course.
How well, go ahead.
Sebastian, high and deep, does it have enough? The answer is absolutely long gone. Third home run of the event for Ty Sebastian, and the Express expand their advantage to 2-0.
I think Ty Sebastian was sitting on that pitch, Peter, because he looked at a couple of drop balls down and in. And this is a changeup. Watch here. He goes down to get this.
Ty Sebastian's third home run of the weekend. And it's 2-0 for the Express.
So just to finish the thought, there are some excellent 23 and under players here this week. They're performing at a high level individually and as teams. Got to keep these guys in the game.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you hope for on weekends like this is you need places and events for those people to aspire to.
Yeah, and normally we would have a full U20 division here. Again, it's such a different year this year. The teams are getting ready for the Canada Games. OASA asked if they could bring the team here. We said yes, of course. We want that team here. The Toronto Batman U23 team is last year's Rostock Braves team. They were in the U20 division last year. They've moved up this year. And there's a lot of good young players there that are going to be on ISC teams for the World Tournament.
A Ty Sebastian home run has the Bear Creek Express in front of the Bear Creek Gremlins. 2-0 as the Gremlins will come to bat in the bottom of the third.
This business was opened in 1965 by my father, Ned Medios. Could have walked in here 25, 30 years ago and seen just about the same thing. The process of making this suit takes about 6 weeks. It goes through about 12 or 13 hands as it's moved along the line. It's an old-time place. Making stuff from scratch here in the city at a reasonable cost. It's a very personal type of business.
The fine facility. Okay, I've heard it both ways. You're the master. Peterson or Ketterson?
I believe it's Keterson, much like Peterson, is my understanding. That's what I've always gone with. It doesn't mean it's right, but that's what I've always gone with.
Well, I like your chances better than mine. But this is a great little community and a great part of the Ontario fastball fabric.
Yeah, it really is.
In this part of
There
Ontario.
was a league down here for many years, the South Perth League. Donnie Scott cut his teeth in that league. Guys like Jeff Pauli, Kevin Gettler with the Mitchell Mets back in the day. Tyler Pauli grew up at this park.
He had a good weekend for his new team.
He has.
The Toronto Batman, formerly of the Bear Creek Express. Nick Mullins, not formerly of the Gremlins. Seems like always of the Gremlins. This guy is a terrific receiver. I would say that's more what he's known for than where he is right now. I think that's pretty fair, isn't it? Not that he can't handle the bat, but the rave about this guy is so much about his work
his
and his
defense
leadership.
is impeccable. No, there's no doubt about it. He is quietly the best 9-hitter in the game. And he's more than happy to be. And I've often talked about Nick being hidden down here in the 9 spot. He's not hiding. Nobody's fooling anybody, but he's the best 9-hitter in the game.
The 39-year-old. And he's not shy on intensity.
He and Ryan Boland would go toe-to-toe for who has the most intensity at any given moment behind the plate.
By the way, that's a Netflix series if anybody wants to take it on. And I would.
So he just bought himself a call there, I think. He was a little vocal with the home plate umpire, Trevor Topping. And that one, maybe actually a better pitch than the previous one. So he's probably where he should be at this point.
I believe it's 3 balls and a strike. As Mullins leads things off here in the bottom of the third with his team trailing by a pair. And had a pretty good cut at that offering.
Nick played D1 University baseball at the University of Pittsburgh back as a youngster. Came into fast pitch 15 years ago now.
Is that not the route, though, Blair, of a lot of gentlemen at this level from the United States?
It seems to me that from the U.S., there's 2 paths. You either come out of high school, university ball looking for a competitive sport still, or you grew up at the Diamond because your dad played. To me, and I hear that story a lot on all the great podcasts, Outside the Chute with Randy Frame and Chris Hopewell. Haven't heard one in a while, but Dust Up, the Twos podcast that you've been featured on a number of times. And even down under with the Beyond the Dugout with Chopper Gerbies, there's that story of growing up at the park.
Makes sense. And it's very prominent, I find, in all sports.
It is. It absolutely is. It's a family affair.
I know in the game that I make my living in, which is the sport of hockey, and have for a long time, I don't think there's ever been a time in that sport, Blair, where there's more prominent sons of ex-dads.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple going on
right now.
Featured prominently in the playoffs, isn't there?
There sure is. Matthew Waugh, little kick of the dirt.
Don't often see that from Matthew. Little presentation earlier this weekend. Matthew Waugh, the 2024 ISC Canada East Player of the Year. And we were happy to present Matthew with a little plaque, Joe Todd and myself, on Friday evening.
Popped up to Cody Panabecker, his first time up. As the Gremlins look to get on the board, trailing by 2 in the rise ball, a good one.
Of a ball magnet, though, I must say.
You know what? Until you just brought that up, I had maybe put that behind me for a while, but yes, on a number of our games last year, one went off the iPad. The other, there was one night we were together and took my glasses and put them in a different stratosphere. You're right. I think it's just someone up there probably hoping at some point it might hit me in the head and turn things around a tad.
I'd like to think that it's the odds catching up with us given how many games that we do. It's almost inevitable.
There is some of that to be said. I've broken 2 bones in my entire life to this point, knock on wood. One of them was at Bob Van Impe Stadium in Saskatoon watching a game when someone hit a screamer. I was standing down the first base line at that park, which I know you've been to.
Mm-hmm.
And a tailing line drive was coming at me, and you think, and that was a long time ago now, you think, I've played the game once or twice in my life. Maybe I'll take a crack at this. And then right at the end, I went, nah, you don't want to do that. But tried to pull it away and broke my wrist.
Yikes.
Matthew Waugh, a good at-bat. here against Sean Cleary, who has brought some excellent stuff to the circle. Sean with 4 strikeouts so far. He's given up 2 hits.
Peter, one of the biggest questions of the weekend has been, why do the games take so long? And listen, there's no finger pointing here, but we're up to about pitch 9 in this at bat. This is why. Because guys foul off pitches, they go deep into counts, and each at bat is really prolonged.
It is prolonged. You're right. And I would say, and we'll see how the season goes with some of those major events. Of course, the creme de la creme, for club teams is obviously the annual ISC World Tournament. But the batters have won the weekend.
Oh, here for sure, yeah.
The batters have won this weekend, and by a considerable margin. And we're not talking about a field shy on really good teams. We're not talking about 5 of the top 6 ranked teams?
6 of the top 7, and arguably you've got the top 6 pitchers in the world here?
Correct. But, one look at the scores will tell you
You
who's
would
been...
not know.
No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Now, part of that, I think it's the middle of June.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, nobody's going to win the World Tournament here this weekend. Hill United Chiefs, I'm sure, have gone away disappointed. But let's also reflect on it's mid-June. You haven't lost the World Tournament. You haven't won the World Tournament here. This is a great event, but it's a table setter.
Wild pitch this time from Cleary as it gets away and allows Mullins to move up 60 feet.
So Matty Waugh has done the job here just by virtue of wearing Sean down to the point where, as you said, a wild pitch. They advanced the runner 60 feet. Now he's in scoring position. Something on the grass may or may not score Nick, who runs well for a catcher.
He's smiling out there now. He wasn't about 12 minutes ago. One more of those might have had him in the parking lot. But you also get away with a lot more when you've been around and have done what he's done. And Cleary's attempt to find the outside corner just missed, and back-to-back walks issued have the Gremlins in business.
Okay, so here's one of those turning points in a game, or a key element, key point in the game, whatever you want to call it. A matchup here with Jerome Remeke with 2, as you said, leadoff walks. This could be a turning point.
Well, they're moving into the heart of the order, and it probably in many ways starts right here. Although with this order, you look at their order, the Chiefs' order, I don't know where the heart sometimes starts and stops.
Well, yeah, it's certainly all muscle.
Yes, well said. Anybody can take you deep, 1 through 9, doesn't matter. You could almost say that about almost every team here this weekend. JDT was pretty impressive.
Very impressed with JDT this weekend.
We talked about pitching. Devin McCullough, who will pitch for Canada again at the upcoming World Cup. He was not a part of the 2022 team.
No, he was not. He is going to be a key piece for Canada, where it's funny. You look at the schedule and you almost think the ace has got to go just about every day. But for Canada right now, Sean is the guy, but I think they're going to go with multiple guys. They're going to go with Ty, they're going to go with Sean, and I think Devin's going to get a chance too. And Scof is probably the closer.
On the ground, Salgado for 1. His throw wide at first.
Yeah, pulled Bartarillo off the bag. That was probably the last thing Remeke wanted to do, was hit something semi-hard right to the bag. You see, made it easy for Salgado, but not a great throw.
So 5 unassisted for the force. And will that turn into a missed opportunity? That had double play written all over it. But Salgado, unfortunately for the Express, throw wide of the target. And now it's Beninoka who has one of the 2 base hits so far in the game off of Sean Cleary. The pride of Auckland, New Zealand. Drop ball and a good one from Cleary for a strike. These games are not shy on quality accents either. I enjoy a good accent. We've got a lot of them in this event.
Yeah, we certainly do. You have everything from the Kiwis and the Aussies to the Newfies.
That's great. I love it.
There is some New York drawl with Nick Mullins and Varm Mattiosian and Greg Leather.
And then, more than a healthy complement of Spanish-speaking
There
players.
is definitely that. And they travel in packs.
They
Just
most
an observation.
No, listen, they absolutely do. Every single one of them has hugged Luciano all weekend.
Yeah, there's been a steady stream
It is.
to pay homage to Luciano.
I could have a job just, saying, hey, you gotta wait for that opportunity to hug this guy.
Just managing the velvet rope.
Yep. Well, we thank Luciano and, again, Carl for their outstanding work. And there really isn't anybody in the sport that doesn't talk about what they have done.
It is universal.
It really is.
The acknowledgement that what they bring has so elevated the game for us.
And if you don't like the two of them, you just don't like human beings. Two of the warmest people you'll ever meet as Remeke is forced out, as Galino shoveled for out number 2.
Well, Sean has done a good job of getting a couple of ground balls to try and work out of this jam. The 2 leadoff walks. Joe Todd will tell you that a leadoff walk comes around 66% of the time to score. So you still got to run this gauntlet with Eric Ochoa.
So there are 2 out. Runners at the corners, and a 2-0 Express lead. Ochoa struck out looking to end the bottom of the first inning. Good movement again on the drop.
Yeah, I've watched Sean pitch 3 games now. Peter, this is by far the best stuff that he's had here this weekend.
He had pitched 7 1/3 coming in, giving up 5 runs on 6 hits. Pitched 3 2/3 against the Gremlins in the 9-3 loss yesterday. So second go-round against the Gremlins on the weekend for Sean Cleary, who couldn't even start to count the big games and big situations that he's been in his softball life. I still think one of the greatest games he ever pitched was the gold medal final of the Pan Am Games in Ajax, Ontario in 2015.
I think when all is said and done, he'll look on that as probably the best game he's thrown. Although I personally, that I've seen him throw.
I'm sure you've seen many probably at the ISC that would.
Well, I was going to point to the WBSC in 2015 against Venezuela in the bronze medal game. Sean came out like a man possessed. They weren't even close.
And then Sean started against New Zealand.
Has a gold medal around his neck.
He does. How good was Devin McCullough that afternoon in his hometown?
There's a funny story I have about the aftermath of that game.
I loved every second of it and don't apologize one bit as a very, very proud Canadian. And I have attended a ton of events of a major variety.
You've been to more international sporting events than most people can count.
Well, that might be true. But that event, which I was unable to attend, would be in my top 2 regrettable not attending moments. But when Mullally hit his 3rd of 3, I say it, and you've read it. I've said it publicly. I've had a forum to do that for a long time. I think that is one of the greatest single-game Canadian sporting performances in history.
Yeah, it does not.
And I'm not just talking about this sport.
Yeah, it doesn't get the recognition it deserves.
No,
There's no doubt about that.
3 home runs and 7 runs batted in, coming from behind. And the crazy thing about that event is Steve had a struggle during that tournament prior to that day. There's Ochoa and Cleary, who saw it all from the dugout, paints the corner again. Cleary's got a little Picasso going on this afternoon. Here in Mitchell in the championship final of this 6-team tournament. A 2-0 Bear Creek Express lead over the Gremlins, now named Bear Creek as well. Change in ownership in the offseason. Alan Salgado reached on a fielder's choice and scored the first Express run. The other was supplied in the 3rd on a home run off the bat of Ty Sebastian. Pablo Migliavaca continues to work for the Gremlins and have not seen anyone else go to work yet. And his player has made mention, and I guess to a certain degree so have I. Remember, you want to win every event you play in, and these guys absolutely do, but part of this is the building process as well. And Salgado didn't like that, as he ends up being strikeout number 6 in the book for Migliavaca.
Peter, for Bear Creek Express, which is essentially, with all of the new players, a brand new team together, their first time together as this unit. And Sean Cleary had never pitched a Luiger Pinto before this weekend. So they're getting together for the first time. This is the first time most of these infielders have played together as a unit. This is a great coming together opportunity for them to find out what each other are made out of and maybe go on to win a championship together in your first event. For New York, this is the New York, there you go. So somebody's having to do a shot right now.
Fortunately, it's not you.
No. For the Gremlins, this is a season opener, and it's about building towards that crescendo.
Pinto goes down and gets one and sends it just past Jerome Remeke at 3rd, and he has a 1-out base hit, his 2nd hit of the afternoon for Luiger Pinto. And they'll run for him.
Brian Aratus out in Vancouver texted me after Friday night's game that I did with the Gremlins. And he said by the 7th inning, it had become a bit of a drinking game every time I said the New York Gremlins. I was only conscious of it doing it once early in the game. I knew I did it, but, 12 years of the New York Gremlins, it's not going to disappear overnight.
No, it sure isn't, and it won't be the last. The runner is Chase Konechny, who goes diving headfirst in on the stolen base. No opportunity. So he came in to run for Pinto and quickly finds himself at second.
Well, you'll know the Konechny name from Travis.
I've already mentioned it on a couple of occasions and wasn't even going to today because you know what that guy at second base doesn't need to hear about anymore?
No, is Travis.
He's a pretty good athlete too. Talking about Chase Konechny. But his brother is not bad at hockey.
Yes.
Member of Canada's Four Nations winning team. And certainly would be a player in high consideration for next year's Winter Olympic Games and a star player with the Philadelphia Flyers. I bet there were some great battles in that household.
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest this. Not shy on athleticism or speed. This guy was a pretty good hockey player, too. Now, right now, he's at second, trying to provide some more insurance. Cody Panabecker, the batter. Drop ball, a good one.
Cody, the last couple of years with the AWP Lumberjacks squad, that team ran into some sponsorship issues and opportunity to bring his talents to the Bear Creek Express as there goes Michael Hollabratic down to the bullpen.
And he's a newcomer to the Express as well.
Yeah, come over from Hill United Chiefs. Justin Schofield going the other way, and I guess what you would call an unofficial trade.
I don't think there's a lot of trades going on between those two respective groups.
There aren't, but that's effectively what it amounts
to.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Well said.
As Ty Sebastian's got nothing else to do, he's down there standing guard.
Swing and a miss, and a strikeout as Panabecker goes down. And Migliavaca up to 7 strikeouts. Pablo's had a really, really quality career. I would suggest that one of his highlights came last spring. He was a perfect 5-0, a 1.03 earned run average in pitching Argentina to the Pan American Championship. They beat Venezuela in the title game. And I think what made it so special, I would think, is Waymel Mata was not a part of that team. So he was the guy.
Yeah, he did a great job for Argentina, and they will tell you that that Pan Am Championship for them is ultra special.
I'm not surprised to hear that. You think there's any emotion in that event?
Between Argentina and Venezuela? That's right up there with Canada-USA hockey.
I would suggest to be, maybe not in this sport, but in others, hockey doesn't even compare. If you throw down a soccer ball, forget it. That's passion that none of us really in North America can understand. So Konechny remains at second. And Barterillo, who has driven in a run today, a chance to do it again. That time he's just defending himself, and lucky it didn't hit him, and unfortunately turned into a foul ball.
Well, he was lucky he got the bat in the way.
Is Migliavaca in this one. We'll check his line here shortly. against this Gremlins team, you never feel like you have enough. Migliavaca given up 5 hits, 2 runs, struck out 7, has yet to issue a free pass. Shows a good eye as the drop misses away. You've watched this guy for a long time. Is there a way to work?
Against Bartorillo?
Yes.
He's got such great plate coverage. Maybe down and in, down and away. You certainly don't want to leave anything up. And then again, that's not Pablo's game in any respect.
No, it isn't. "40 years of age, he'll turn 41, Bartorillo, on the 28th of this month. Can he deliver again in this title game of the 6-team event here in Mitchell on a beautiful Father's Day Sunday? Lines out to Ochoa at first. It remains 2-0 for the Bear Creek Express.
How confident are you in your organization's security posture? If your answer isn't 100%, you're not alone. Most organizations aren't doing enough to protect their data, and they know it. With Armitage technology, you can stop worrying about IT security issues so you can focus on moving your business forward. Our experienced staff monitor and maintain your IT infrastructure to keep your business running. Visit us at armitagetech.com and make your technology work for your business.
Peligro Sports provides the essentials needed to give your team an edge on the field. Our brand is rooted in creating a unique experience tailored to the specific needs of your team to ensure your performance is at the best level to execute plays. At Peligro Sports, we rally behind our athletes and understand their fight to take their game to a dangerous level. Visit our store at 2200 Amsterdam Avenue in New York City or see us online at peligrosportsnyc.com. Thanks to Jose and Peligro Sports for their support of the broadcast program.
Cole Evans, Lucio Retamar, and Abiardo Penuelas drew up for the Gremlins. In the bottom of the 4th, they trail it by a count of 2-0.
Peter, just before we get going on the inning, just want to remind everybody, coming up after this one, we'll have our trophy presentation, and then we're going to bring you the Red Division Championship game between the Toronto Batman U23 and the winner of the Georgian Bay Giants and the Ontario U20 team. That's still to come on Softball Premier TV.
Look forward to checking that out. Cole Evans, Sean Cleary able to strike him out the first go-round. Cole has a couple of home runs in the event. Rips this. Foul. Looked like he was sitting on the change.
Yep.
Made a fabulous defensive play to start the game defensively from Auckland, New Zealand. I wouldn't say there's a lot of players in the sport that are about to play in a 5th World Cup at 26. Some guys are lucky to ever get even close to doing it once. He's about to do it for time number 5.
Yeah, he might end up playing in 6 or 7 by the time all is said and done in his career.
Four for 12 with a couple of home runs. Out in front of the change. Nice hands by Salgado, and credit Barterillo. It's the second time. Remember earlier, Salgado had an opportunity to turn a 5 unassisted over to first double play, and his throw was wide. That one was up the line, but Barterillo did well to receive and tag to record the first out.
Yeah, somebody's buying Ty Barterillo a beer after the game. Alan just airmailed that one a bit.
Holobratic continues to work for the Express in potential relief. Sean Cleary off to a fine beginning in this game. And that's a perfect illustration as to why.
He's worked that corner. He's tried to stretch it a little bit. Trevor Topping's been quite consistent with where the limit is. But for the left-handed batters in the Gremlins lineup, they've been fed a steady diet of drop balls on that outside corner.
Lucio Retamar, the 25-year-old. He struck out his first at-bat.
They tried to go out there again. That was the change, and that was probably just over the chalk line in the batter's box, not on the black of the plate.
I mentioned earlier, Blair, on the weekend that sometimes you could have a great show, require no words, just watch facial reaction. Grunts, groans, looks, shakes of the head. They're all prominent.
Yeah, that one was just a little bit further outside. They're trying to stretch the zone here, get Retamar to chase, but he's not having it. But, yeah, Sean Cleary, the Iceman out there, the most you'll ever get with Sean is a bit of a shake of the head.
Well, he's been doing it at a high level for a very, very long time. And I know he wasn't overly pleased with 2024. But players who are Hall of Fame at anything, which he's going to be, again, how many times in life do they say it's how you respond?
Oh, it's absolutely right.
Hopefully I'll learn that before I leave. Retamar. Looks like a bit of a separated grip. And there is another quality change.
And it was a knuckleball, too. You saw Retamar coming off, and he was moving his hand around. That is the universal sign for that ball was moving all over the place. And Sean will throw the knuckle change with a little bit more frequency than he used to. We watched him throw a lot at the Gremlins last year in that very difficult game between the Gremlins and the Express on Thursday evening.
That was the 15 spot for the Gremlins?
That was the 2-point conversion, yeah.
After the knuckle change, tries to bust Penuelos inside. You can say whatever you want, though, about this weekend. You don't want to put a ton of stock in it, but games like this, for the right players, can be a whale of a confidence builder. If you're Sean Cleary and you find a way to shut the door for a couple more innings against this group, that's not going to hurt your mindset the rest of the season.
No, like I said, it's all about building to that crescendo of events starting in the middle of July and carrying on over a 3-week period.
And that through the World Games. Ripped by Panuelos. Fair. He runs well. And has a 2-out double.
Well, give some credit to Callum Bichel. Got over there in a hurry down the right field lines. You said Panuelos runs very well. I was thinking 3 as that skittered down the line, but he pulled out the chute pretty early and content with the double.
Yeah, there would have never been any opportunity the way that Bichel tracked it. And Retimar with his second hit, or make that Panuelos with his second hit of this game. He's singled and doubled now. Ladislau Malherzuk. As the noise level of both dugouts will tell you that this is becoming another key spot in the game. The grunts, the groans, the happy side, the unhappy side.
Yeah.
That is sports in its best form. You don't get that in the video games. Oh, did I say that out loud? What don't I say out loud? Oh, yeah, we visited that once already.
I like Pinto here taking charge, moving the outfielders around a little bit to be in the right position for the pitching sequence that he's got in mind. That's some leadership already.
Rise, again, going outside, but out of the zone this time. Malherzuk struck out versus Cleary back in the second. Two nothing. The Express over the Gremlins, but a long way to go. And this one is not racing at breakneck speed either.
Well, we're right about where I'd expect to be if we had started at 2:30.
We didn't. Well, we did. Kind of.
Well, the 12:30 game at 1:45.
Yeah, the 2-hour window has been tested this weekend.
Well, it's been found wanting this weekend, too.
Better you than me. Malherzuk against Cleary. Panuelos after the double at second. 2 down, bottom of the fourth. Great change.
This has been a masterclass from Sean this afternoon on changing speeds. And Peter, you picked that one very early. Location, location, location. Not giving in to the Gremlin batters.
Well, you just cannot make very many mistakes against this lineup. Really, this weekend. And guess what? The scores have shown. If you are not, even as a world-class pitcher, at the top of your game against the hitters here this weekend.
Well, we saw it. Yep.
We saw it.
Yeah, we did. Sean tried to sneak in a low rise there to the outside corner, but just didn't get enough of the plate.
So a full count to Malherzuk. And what will Cleary offer up on a payoff pitch as he stares in? Struck him out. Sean Cleary's 7th strikeout of the afternoon, and it remains 2-0. The Express lead the Gremlins in the title game here in Mitchell. A 2-0 lead as Yusuf Davis set to lead things off for the Express. Ty Sebastian is homered in the game. Barterillo and a new pitcher. Kuba Osichka from Czechia. Back again with the Gremlins. Taking over from Pablo Migliavaca, who went the first 4 innings, gave up a couple of runs. 5 hits, struck out 7.
Not dissimilar to Pablo, changes speeds, probably throws a little bit harder than Pablo does, and will have a little bit more of a rise ball. But, again, a real good changeup from Kuba Osichka.
And he is very much in his youth. I have him at 22. Can I make a small request to someone in charge like yourself in the ISC on rosters? Would be great. One of the hardest things to find is people's actual birthdays. You can find birth years. It's hard to find birthdays. It's one of my small pet peeves.
Ironically, the only ones we ask for it are the guys in the 50-plus division.
Well, maybe you know a guy that knows a guy that can, just out there for consideration.
I'll see if there's somebody we can talk to about that.
Well, I like to get it right. And it's funny because this weekend falls dead smack in the middle of the year. So there's, equally as good a chance as maybe you've had your birthday or you haven't had your birthday. So Osichka so far has pitched 4 innings here. He has a win, given up 3 runs, 5 hits, struck out 5, and hasn't walked anyone. He was really, in many ways, used as the ace last March in Mexico for Czechia, ahead of Holobratic when you take a look at the usage.
Yeah, a little surprised that Holobratic didn't get the ball a little bit more often than he did. And that was unanimous feeling amongst the softball blowhards chat group. But Kuba is certainly worthy of it.
Well, he has his first strikeout since replacing Migliavaca, and now dealing with a fine hitter in Callum Bichel. He's been one of the more impressive Bear Creek Express players here this weekend. Though he's 0 for 2 in this game. Grounded out and then lined out. That was the play that I believe Ochoa made on a screamer at first. Jakub Osichka. They call him Kuba. And Kuba is off to a good start. Back-to-back strikeouts as he enters the game.
Yeah, I got Bichel to chase up and out of the zone. Ty Sebastian was for 48 seconds down the line, throwing a couple of pitches, but he's had enough of that and headed back to the dugout.
Did you have your summer Macintosh stopwatch out for that one?
Yes. It was another world record.
She had a poor week, didn't she?
Oh, great to see.
It's awesome. Love it when Canadians do well in sports. In fact, nothing does my heart prouder. As a player from Czechia throws it over the head of a player from the United States with a batter from New Zealand.
It is tough to get the ball over the head of Pitterona, too. If you've done that, you've done something.
That's a good point. I've never seen the official height, but he's got to be in the 6'4", 6'5" range, I would think.
I
Or do you think it's even?
I want to say 6'5", 6'6".
Yes.
His dad was 6'4", and he's a good couple inches taller than his dad.
Was he okay at the game?
He was pretty good, yeah. Could hit a little.
Dad Brad, yeah, he was all right. Popped out. Pitterona. And an excellent start for Kuba Osichka. 1-2-3, top of the fifth as he enters the game in the 8-foot circle.
Welcome to Mont Hill Golf and Country Club. With our beautiful 27-hole golf course open to the public, we work tirelessly to ensure your time with us is second to none. Well, here you'll be able to enjoy an incredible dining experience at our very own Big Pete's Steakhouse. Play some of the best courses in the world with our state-of-the-art golf simulators. Upgrade your gear with the top brands at our pro shop, or host a stunning wedding, event, or conference inside one of our beautiful ballrooms. Learn all this and more at monthill.ca. We can't wait to see you soon.
Peligro Sports provides the essentials needed to give your team an edge on the field. Our brand is rooted in creating a unique experience tailored to the specific needs of your team to ensure your performance is at the best level to execute plays. At Peligro Sports, we rally behind our athletes and understand their fight to take their game to a dangerous level. Visit our store at 2200 Amsterdam Avenue in New York City or see us online at peligrosportsnyc.com. Thanks to Jose and Peligro Sports for their support of the broadcast program.
Well, Sean Cleary gives way to another player from Czechia, Mikel Holobratic. A great 4 innings of work for Sean Cleary. No runs, 3 hits, struck out 7, and walked 2.
Yeah, Canadian fastball fans will be happy to see that outing from Sean Cleary as he builds his season towards Prince Albert. The international, in fact, Peter, you and I have talked about this a lot, but the international element of our game has never been on more display here this weekend. The last 36, 48 months in the game in particular. Really, to me, post-COVID, it's exploded.
I agree. And it's awesome.
Yeah, as we talked about the other night, we've got players from 6 continents here. That's something you could not have fathomed here playing in Mitchell 3-4 years ago.
You know, this sport on the men's side has never had any traction that I know of to make its way into an Olympics. I think there's more reason to say yes now than ever before. I mean, I'd love to see it in my lifetime. I'm not sure I will.
Yeah, I don't think there's any holding out hope for that particular one. But the multi-sport games like the World Games, the Pan Am Games, the Asian Games, that's where I think is the opportunity for men's fast pitch.
The World Games won't hurt that cause, though. But you're right, it's probably not going to happen in our lifetimes, if ever. I think it should, but I'm biased. But I also understand the parameters. And if it wasn't Father's Day and I wasn't in a really, really good mood, I would go down a tangent of other Olympic events. But I'm not going to. Today I'm going to be quiet on that front.
Well, we'll stick to the subject matter at hand for the most part.
See, that's good. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
You keep me in check. So Holobratic has worked 3 1/3 in this tournament, given up 3 runs on 3 hits, struck out 5, walked 4. That 3 1/3 came in a game against JDT, First Energy. And that's a good start for him as well as he gets Nick Mullins swinging on a drop ball for out number 1 in the bottom of the 5th.
That's the big pitch from Michael Holobratic is the drop. he can keep that pitch working. He throws hard, too, harder than, or as hard as, at least anyway, as Sean Cleary. But it's a different look than what you get with Sean.
Matthew Waugh is his next opponent. Tried to spin one towards the outside corner, but you could tell he lost grip of it as he let it go. Still seems very odd to not see Ryan Bolin behind home plate when this team plays. Wish him nothing but the best. Loved watching him play and loved getting to know him. And I'm guessing he's still going to make a big difference in this sport in years to come.
Well, currently suffering with a bit of an injury, I'm made to understand, and still planning to be with the Express in Minnesota. Let's hope that that's the case.
Okay. I have kind of heard a bit of the opposite, but
well, my info's about 2 weeks old. If that's been updated,
I would love to see it.
That's possible.
You are still far, far, far more connected in these situations than I am. Matthew Waugh trying to get his team going here in the fifth. Yes, it's down, says home plate umpire Trevor Topping. Three and one now to Waugh, who was walked and popped out today. There's another one of those made-for-TV looks.
Well, here's the dilemma, and I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. If I get too far, you pull me back. We're really wrestling with length of games and how long it takes, particularly at the upper level of the game. If you want to speed up the game, you need to make the batters swing more. How do you make the batters swing more? Call more strikes. Call a little bit wider zone. Call a little bit taller zone. Make the batters swing. That will help speed up the game significantly. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I think it makes for great conversation. And you know what? It's legit. This weekend has featured a lot of lengthy games.
And as I view it, most batters know that they can go 5-6 pitches into an at-bat, foul one or two off, because the strike zone is so small. They can take pitches that maybe should be strikes.
Now, in certain situations, is there a need for some kind of pitch clock?
I was talking with somebody the other day, and somebody said to me, wherever it's been introduced, it has been absolutely successful in speeding up whatever sport it's been introduced into. There are purists, and I'm not claiming to be one of them, but there are purists who would argue against the introduction. I don't believe it can hurt.
Well, not unlike yourself. At my age, most of the time, I would probably be on more of a purist side. But this is one case where I'm absolutely on the other side of the fence. I'm going pitch clock all day. All day long.
And honestly, it's been working, I would say, quite well in the international game. But there's a pitch, one example, that probably was on the block, but it was at the letters.
Right.
To me, if you start calling that pitch a strike, you get guys swinging more, and you don't have 8-9 pitch at bats.
3 balls and a strike to Jerome Remeke, the outstanding third baseman for the Gremlins. Up the middle, knocked down. The shovel is in time. Well done at second to stay with that ball. Pannebecker would not let it get away.
Yeah, good defense. The old stick-to-it play.
As he shovels to retire Matthew Waugh for out number 2. If you've ever played in the infield in any sport involving a ball, staying with it is very important. No better example than the one we just had. So 2 down on the 4-6 out at second base, and now it's Beninoka. Remains 2-0. Holobratic finds the outside portion. You're right. At times these guys would like the zone to be in a very small box.
Yeah, the shoebox. Right? And if you can zone in on that as a batter, it's to your advantage.
And the players in this tournament in particular, because this tournament features so many of the game's best here this weekend, they're able to do that. And in sports, everybody's always pushing the envelope to try to be more successful. I mean, that's just part of what happens.
Right, so the conversation is what can we, as stewards of this game, do to speed up long games? To me, that's one answer, is because you can't go with 2 outs. You can't start with a strike and a ball and the batter or something artificial like that. But the strike zone has been, in my mind, in my opinion, artificially shrunk over the years, and it's happened organically. The pitch clock is a mechanical introduction.
So you'd probably, that would be option number 2 for you, as
For me,
opposed
that
to
would be
number
option
1?
number 2. Option number 1 for me would be to call a bigger strike zone. The players may not like it, but I don't know that the players really enjoy 2-hour and 45, 50-minute games either.
No, I don't think they do.
I mean, I had the conversation with a couple of guys on one of the teams that aren't participating in the championship game, and in the moment you don't really realize it, but when it's done, it's like, oh my God, we were just out there for 7 innings and it took 2 hours and 48 minutes. It shouldn't.
I'm going to add another little layer in a second or two, maybe in the next half inning. Anoka hit hard. Again, it's Pannebecker who knocks it down and shovels to second. Cody Pannebecker gets it done defensively, and the Express continue to lead it by a count. Top of the 6th inning. Hits have been at a premium. 4 for the Express. One of them off the bat of the gentleman to lead things off. Ty Sebastian hit a solo homer, his third homer of the weekend here in Mitchell. Back in the third to add to the advantage. Was facing Pablo Migliavaca then, dealing with Kuba Osichka now. As Osichka pours over a strike in the outer portion of the plate. Hit hard and finds a hole. And Sebastian has his second hit of this final game. And he will represent his country of Canada, the Brussels Bulldog, as I like to call him, in Prince Albert in a couple of weeks.
Might have to change the name of his club team from the Tigers to the Bulldogs.
Possibly. I'm vying to do it. It won't work, but I'm, for the last year,
You're advocating.
As you know, I'm spending, a decent chunk of time advocating. I just think it fits. It fits him. It's a nice play on words. There's David Galino at a quality hack and missed. His 2-run homer paved the way for the Express to be in the game after downing the Toronto Batmen 6-5 earlier. And today he has the light blue Franklin batting gloves on. Generally, it's the pink gloves.
He's gone with the purple tape, I see, though, on the bat.
Look out. Did well to get out of the way, the 26-year-old.
The pink thumb guard.
I did notice that, yes. But it has been hard to miss the pink batting gloves.
Oh, yeah, he had those last year at the World Tournament, too, didn't he?
He sure did. But wasn't having the best of weekends at home plate prior to today. And he's found his stroke today and has a hit in this game. Had a couple in the semifinal. And he's upset at himself, as he knew he swung at a pitch well out of the strike zone. As Osichka has his third strikeout in his second inning of relief. Blair, the other thing I would just try and quickly add, and we're at an important stretch of the game, so should probably leave it rather than go there, is remember, you're still trying to draw new people to your sport.
Yes.
You want them to be as entertained as possible. And we live in a day and age where attention span has probably never been smaller. So that to me is something in part to think about when you're making decisions about making things a little quicker. Evans on the turn. Thought he had the double play.
Well, they got Sebastian at second base, but just not enough on the return throw to get Salgado.
Let's take another look here. Great turn. Ooh, I
maybe
kind of understand why there was a number of players headed towards the dugout. The inning will continue for Luigi Pinto, and he's been an awfully difficult out. He has 2 hits. He's 2 for 2 in the game. And the low rise finds the strike zone. And Otterman says no.
Drew the ire from some in the Gremlins dugout there. My goodness.
Hard to tell. Change up. Stayed back as far as he could, but right at Cole Evans. To the bottom of the sixth in a 2-0 Bear Creek Express lead in the title game of this fine tournament here in Mitchell.
Dreamcatcher, inch by inch, we'll fight to make the lives of First Nations people in this community, this province, and on this continent better. I know we have a long way to go, but I'm proud to say as long as our people have a need, Dreamcatcher will be there for them.
It remains 2-0. It's been that way, Blair Setford, since the third.
2-0 here, and Peter, we just got an update from the Red Division semi-final. Georgian Bay tied it up at 5. They just got a 2-run home run in the bottom of the 7th inning, so that one may potentially be headed for extra innings. Georgian Bay still at the plate on the diamond behind us. We'll bring you the Red Division Championship game following the conclusion of this one. Toronto Batman U23 teams already in the final. Will it be Ontario U20? Will it be Georgian Bay Giants? Stay tuned, we'll find out.
Eric Ochoa tuned in to deal with Michael Holobrodik, who entered the game in the 4th inning. Has given up 1 hit, a double. Second time in the game that the wrist guard and the contraption has caused Eric to re-wrap. He struck out twice, but now dealing with someone other than Sean Cleary, who had 4 excellent shutout innings before he gave way. Struck out 7. The newly constructed Express against a very similar, now Bear Creek, formerly New York Gremlins team. Not a lot of changes there from a year ago when they lost to the Hill United Chiefs in the title game of the ISC World Tournament by a count of 7-1. Ochoa against Holobrodik. And a drop ball of quality, swung on and missed. 3 strikeouts for Ochoa, and that is rare. And the second strikeout in relief of Sean Cleary for Holobrodik, who now deals with Cole Evans. 0 for 2 in the game. Cole 5 for 13 by my count on the weekend. Had a 3 for 3 game to start the weekend against the Toronto Batmen. He homered in the 9-3 victory over the Bear Creek Express when they met for the first time in a round-robin affair, and also hit the deciding game-winning home run in a 3-1 triumph last night in a rematch of last year's ISC World Championship title game against the Hill United Chiefs when he went deep, a 2-run shot in the 4th. Underneath this, in foul ground, and Pannebecker couldn't quite squeeze it.
Boy, that's a tough play. He's got a fence coming up on him real fast, and he's looking into the sun. Given a valiant effort, but no shame in not getting that one.
He's been a busy guy.
He's made some real good plays.
A couple of hard-hit balls at him that he had to knock down, stay with, shovel to second to get outs. And a new life for Cole Evans. Ola Braddock has been sharp, just like Cleary. Change up, and an extra life turns into a hit, and a huge turn around first. And you saw, or maybe you didn't, but Pannebecker, after receiving the throw-in, just hammered the ball into his own glove, and you know exactly why.
Yeah, he's looking to have made that play, but like I said, there's no shame in not making that play. That's an exceptional effort to have made it.
That would have been one of the plays of the weekend had he been able to pull that off, and you're right. The sun is a problem looking that way right now, too. Retimar steps in, 1 on, 1 out, down 2 for the Gremlins. In the bottom of the 6th inning.
Something I just want to note here right now, Peter, you could go to your bench or you can develop your players into championship caliber guys by giving them the opportunity in big moments.
Retimar fouls it away, made good contact. Cole Evans, his 6th hit of the weekend, finds himself at first base. And now it's Ty Sebastian up and warming for the Express. Another good drop ball from Holobradek. Every time I go to look at the pitch clock, I just miss it for velocity. There's Retimar. Wants a little extra time to dig in and get set. This time Ola Braddock dealing outside but missed. Down and away. This tournament title on the line here this afternoon on a beautiful Father's Day Sunday in Mitchell, Ontario. Delighted to have you with us no matter where you're tuning in from on Softball Premier TV and the Softball Premier TV YouTube channel. This one gets past Luigi Pinto. And Pinto with a little frustration that time. What language would those two guys use between the two of them?
Hungarian, maybe Finnish?
Yeah. No. Have you ever listened to people speak Finnish?
That is a complicated language. You might as well be speaking Kryptonian.
That is a very unique dialogue. Of course, they'd say the same about English, I'm sure, but that one. Crucial moment in this one. And the outside drop works well for Holobradic, who has his third strikeout in relief in his second of this half inning.
Was fortunate enough to get to talk with Paddy Shannon, Hall of Fame catcher from New Zealand, a fair bit in his latter years up here in North America. And Paddy always used to say, when in doubt, down and out.
It's a great line. It's hard to get hurt in that area.
Yeah.
Is Abiardo Panuelos takes a strike again, and both Clary and Holobradic have really located the ball well on the outside part of the plate.
And Luiger Pinto has been pointing them there all game long.
As his country flag on his spikes or cleats. And I see the name Nella on one of them. I wonder if that might be for a family member.
Yeah, could be. The Venezuelan flag colors on the glove, too.
Yes. They'll participate in the upcoming World Cup. They earned their way with a wild card bid. It was funny, in their qualifying event, they were perfect in the round robin in Mexico, and then lost 2 in a row to the Dominican Republic, who actually finished first there, grabbed the first spot, and then it was Australia who grabbed spot number 2.
And that was Jack Besgrove, who basically willed them into that position.
I think he had 72 strikeouts in that event. I'd have to double check, but it was right in that wheelhouse. Fouled back by Penuelos, who doubled his last time up. He'd love to chip away at this 2-0 deficit here in the bottom of the 6th. Evans looking in, maybe providing a little help for the batter. Always trying to give your team an edge. .70 strikeouts in that qualifier for Besgrove.
Penuelos gets hit, not quite in between the numbers, but on the 1. And that's not what Michael Holobradic wanted to do, to bring the go-ahead run to the plate.
It sure was not.
Peter, we want to congratulate our Legends Division champions, the St. Thomas Bear Creek Storm. 5-3 winners over the Coburg Force. The Storm go 4-1 on the weekend. So congratulations to Tom Eady and the boys.
Yes, indeed.
They will be in Mankato. Another appearance at the Legends Division Championship.
Boy, those guys enjoy themselves, don't they?
Oh, they absolutely do. The competitive fire still there, a little slower.
It's fun.
But it is fun for a lot of those guys, and there are some who still have that that fire at the 50-plus age.
I don't know if for competitive people it ever goes away, to be honest. Pinto, a throwback. And Evans dives in safely.
He's been getting a pretty healthy lead, and he had to scamper back mightily there because that was a real strong throw from
Was
Luiger
it
Pinto.
ever?
Wow. That was a seed.
From the knees.
You see it there on the replay. Never got out of the crouch.
No. Ladislav Malerzuk. He's actually the go-ahead run at home plate, and that is a tough time for one of those.
Yeah, but a 44.5-footer from Holobratic and results in 60 extra feet of real estate for those two out there, Evans and Penuelos. I wonder if Cole Evans, well, maybe not, but he was grimacing a little bit and rotating the right arm on that dive back into the bag. Maybe just stretch something in the shoulder a tiny bit.
Yeah, he's reaching for it again. He absolutely.
And he's shaking it out, so he's jarred something there.
No doubt about that. Strike on the outside corner. Malerzuk unhappy. Good weapons on both teams' benches, by the way, if need be, late in the game. Holobratic comes back in this time.
Yeah, that's a real good pitch. He tied up Malerzuk there, right in on the hands.
30-year-old Ladislav Malerzuk, who will turn 31 on September the 13th. A four-time all-world player at the ISC. Struck him out. Quite a recovery after giving the base runners a path on a wild pitch. Fourth strikeout in relief. None bigger than that one with the tying run at second base. We'll head to the seventh in the title game here in Mitchell. Two 2-0, top of the seventh. Peter Lubardius and Blair Setford bringing you the title game action.
So, Peter, it's that time of day, 4 p.m., when flights are starting to loom back to various locations around North America. And I just saw one of the Gremlin players head out with a bag. So Yusuf Davis is out. Eric Ochoa is out. There's 2 flights to California.
Yes. Thank you, Trevor. We'll figure that out. You've got enough to do back there.
So just defensively, I see Brian Avery is over at third base now for the Gremlins. Jerome Remeke has moved to first. Evans and Malerzuk are still in the middle infield. Waugh still on left, Anoka still in center. I think that's Penuelos out in right, but I could be wrong.
It still is, I believe. Or is that Redemar out there? That looks like 21 to me.
Yeah, you're right. That's Redemar out there in right field.
Well, no change in pitcher. Remains Kuba Osichka. And Mullins still behind the plate. Panabecker high in the air. Evans shades his eyes, takes it at an angle to get out of the sun as much as possible, and records the out. Can you imagine in tomorrow's or Tuesday's Stanley Cup final, hey, it's the third. We gotta go.
Well, when you fly commercial, you are at the...
But listen, I know a thing or two about travel.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, you more than anybody.
I get it. And you know what? I joke in one respect, but as Barterillo tried to hit it to Cucamonga, which is a town in California, do not forget that while these people play this game at the highest level in the world, they still have other large responsibilities, like jobs. So guess what? You got to get back to work. You got to get back to work. Osichka's been impressive, Blair.
Yeah, he has come on and done a good job here of keeping the door welded shut for the Gremlins. Brian Avery is out at third base, as we mentioned, for the Gremlins now. Remeke moved over to first.
Jerome Remeke at first. And this will find some green off the bat. Newly inserted. Also from Czechia, David Yaluska has a hit.
Oh, the reigning ISC batting champion.
And he's a new member of this Bear Creek Express team.
With the Pueblo Bandits in 2024.
And I'm going to guess might be at third base when the game continues. Maybe not. We'll see. Callum Bichel hit it deep off the fence. And here comes Yalushka. A huge RBI double by Callum Bichel. It's 3-0 for the Express.
Big hit for Bichel, as you said. This is a bit of a pitch that's left hanging by Osichka. Bichel goes to get it up in the zone and just hammers that to center left.
There's 2 for 3 in the semifinal win over the Toronto Batmen in come-from-behind fashion. In the title game, they've been ahead from the get-go, but that's a massive RBI double off the bat of the Australian national team member Callum Bichel. And that literally went off the end of the bat of Yusuke Morita. 3-0. They lead the now Bear Creek Gremlins. A rise ball, and Osichka's upset at himself.
Yeah, that's made a tall order even tougher here for the Gremlins when they head to the bottom of the 7th.
They're down by 3. The newly constructed Bear Creek Express, 3 outs away from winning the title here in Mitchell.
inch by inch, we'll fight to make the lives of First Nations people in this community, this province, and on this continent better. I know we have a long way to go, but I'm proud to say as long as our people have a need, Dreamcatcher will be there for them.
Sorry, I'll be back in a minute.
We'll be happy when you return. 3-0 after Callum Beashill's RBI double in the top of the 7th. And the Gremlins down to their last 3 outs. Perfect 4-0 this weekend. 3-0 in the round robin. Down to JDT First Energy 4-3 in a semifinal win earlier today. Sean Cleary, terrific in the circle for 4 innings. And Holobratic has picked up for the last 2 where he left off, dealing with Nick Mullins to start the bottom of the 7th and delivers a first pitch strike. The Gremlins more than capable of having a big inning. They've had 2 5-run innings this weekend. One of them came at the expense of the team they're playing now. The Gremlins beat the Express 9-3 in a round-robin game yesterday. Scored 5 late to blow it open. Braddock wanted that. You trail by 3. Your number one concern early in your at-bats in this inning is base runners. Any way you can get on, but Nick Mullins won't get on. He takes strike 3 looking. Back-to-back strikeouts in the game. Holobratic up to 4 by my count since taking over from Sean Cleary in the 5th. Matthew Waugh goes through his regular routine. Fine scorekeeper tells me he has 5. And his vote matters a lot more than mine does. Still pretty good. Even more impressive at 5. Sean Cleary and Michael Holobratic, to this point, have shut the door on the Bear Creek Gremlins. Matthew Waugh hoping to change that. He's been on twice today, courtesy of a pair of walks. Blair, when you sit this close to home plate, as we have all weekend, I have never felt more for umpires than maybe this weekend. For whatever reason, I've always had incredible respect, and what would we do without them? But it's almost like every pitch somebody's looking or nodding or sighing or
kicking dirt.
Yeah, that too. It's a lot. Matthew Waugh trying to start a rally with his team down by 3. On this warm Sunday. Both pitchers, talking about Cleary and Holobratic, have really done an excellent job working the outside part of the plate to whether it's lefties or righties. Location, location, location has been a big part of the Express program. And it has to be against a lineup like this. Pinto jumped out of there in a hurry in hopes of maybe stealing strike three. One out, bottom of the seventh. Pannebecker comes up with his hands and throws to first for out number two. Technically speaking, you can't field it better than he did. Take it out in front, in the middle of your body, come up with your hands, make a throw.
Yeah, I know he beat himself out for not coming up with that spectacular play over by the fence a couple of innings back, but he has been solid and steady, which is exactly what you need at second base.
So down to their last out. So far, Cleary and Holobratic have limited the Gremlins to 4 hits.
Yeah, it's been a real outstanding effort. Sean set the tone early, too. They had a couple of chances against him. Go back to, was it the third inning when he had the 2 leadoff walks, and that was a good look at the game for the Gremlins, but he worked his way out of that. A real strong 4 innings from Sean, and to date, 2 2/3 from Michael Holobratic.
Yeah, if it doesn't change, that's the inning. That's the inning. To get through that unscathed. A really huge turning point in this one. But until you record out number 21, you're not home. Remeke trying to keep his group alive. Remeke in the game, 0 for 3. The last time we talked about Pannebecker, that's one of the hard-hit balls that he had to deal with. I'm not sure this guy hits anything that isn't pretty hard hit.
It's always a challenge.
Grabs the Gorilla Gold rag. Paints the outside corner. Sean Cleary and Michael Holobratic combine on a 4-hit shutout to capture the crown here in Mitchell of this 6-team division. Crowd hit them 8-4, but the story, the pitching of Cleary and Holobratic and some great defense to go along with it. So the Bear Creek Express, a newly constructed group from a year ago, win the title of this fine 6-team event in Mitchell. We'll take a break and be back with a trophy presentation in a few minutes. A highly anticipated 6-team tournament. 6 of the top 7 rated teams in the ISC rankings collided here in Mitchell. And in the end, it was the Bear Creek Express with a 3-0 triumph over the Bear Creek Gremlins in the title game. Blair Setford moving from the booth to his tournament organizer duties, and I think that was potentially for top pitcher is Jack Besgrove, the winner there. And Ty Sebastian, who hit a very important solo home run in the 3rd inning in this game. 3 homers during the event. He wins an individual award. And the ISC Canada East Trophy goes to Paul Sebastian, coaching staff, and catcher, and I guess captain, Luigi Pinto. So that will put a wrap on this division, really the Premier Division, but we still have some more great action coming your way. The Red Division final will be up next. But the champions of, I believe it was called the White Division, the top group of 6 teams, the winners are the Bear Creek Express, as they will go home from Mitchell, Ontario as a happy lot. And we'll gather for the final picture. And as they gather, I'll say goodbye. So long, everybody, for now, from Mitchell, Ontario.
For the latest in softball innovation, the website where you can experience the best tournaments in the Americas.
Live games, news, tournaments, and much, much more.
The best quality live softball, on demand so you can watch when you want. Become a Premier now, softballpremiertv.com.
Live it on Softball Premier.